Warm greetings from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. I'm here to present to you the entire report for the day 2 of IFLA 2023 conference being held at Ahoy Convention Center at Rotterdam. The day witnessed, highly packed programs throughout the day, and wherein we had parallel sessions which were held on very engaging topics. I would like to report to you a couple of programs that I could manage to attend during the day. And the day started with a program on IFLA and UNESCO building knowledge societies together. The session highlighted the magnificent efforts of IFLA and UNESCO in building inclusive and sustainable knowledge societies. It also highlighted the critical and incredible role that universal access to knowledge plays in achieving sustainable development. Mrs. Clara Meguer coordinated the entire session. At the session, Mr. Sharas Memes, IFLA Secretary General, applauded the extraordinary work of UNESCO and informed that IFLA and UNESCO has a long-standing partnership of more than 75 years. She urged the professionals to engage in partnerships for building knowledge societies. In the session, Dr. Tawfiq Jelassi, the UNESCO's Assistant Deputy Director General, also addressed online the attendees, and he appreciated the efforts of IFLA in fulfilling Goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goals. He also apprised the participants about IFAP 2023-2029 plans, which are quite ambitious, which aims at fulfilling the need for building up the knowledge societies. Also during the session, Dr. Ziyang Hu from IFAP Secretariat at Paris joined, who is serving as a program specialist. She laid focus on 6 priority areas for IFAP, including information for development, information literacy, information preservation, information ethics, and information accessibility. She also spoke about the challenges being encountered for implementation of IFAP. This was followed by a presentation by Mrs. Diane Kuswandini, the Associate Program Specialist of the Memory of the World project of UNESCO, who informed the participants that the program is in operation since 1992, and she focused on and informed about the 5 key areas, including identification, preservation, access, policy, and the cooperation. This was being followed also by engaging discussions by Mr. Jonathan Hernandez Perez from Mexico. And the session encountered the question-answer session with the delegates who had asked very pertinent questions on the topic, and it was a highly enriching and an enlightening session. The second session of IFLA 2023, the second day program that I may like to mention about is a session on Toolkit for Effective Library Copyright Advocacy, the Knowledge Rights 21 program, which was jointly being conducted by Mr. Ben White and Mr. Stephen Weber. They felt that the rights to research, education, and culture are not being prioritized, especially with the shift to digital. They further felt that there is a need for a Copernican shift in the way we make laws, including the copyright. They further emphasized on the need that the open access movement needs a further boost. The experience of the libraries and the people that they serve risk not being heard according to them. They also felt that the copyright is too often seen as too hard or gets left to one person. They have spoken at length about the various initiatives being taken up at the European level and also focused on the Knowledge Rights 21 programs. They also cited in their presentation a couple of the works and the studies which have been undertaken, including the University of Glasgow study on ebooks, competition study interim report, and which has clearly indicated about the various aspects concerning the bundling of the titles, the high prices, the refusal to license by the publishers, and also they had mentioned about the Centrum IFRO, which have undertaken a study on copyright and ebooks in the light of 2016. And these reports are also being available online, and they had desired that the professionals should have a look at it. They also have spoken about the various countries in the Europe, especially in Europe, that how what kind of steps have been taken in implementing the copyright laws and the role being played by Knowledge Rights 21 program. They also felt that there is a greater need for the secondary publishing laws to become successful, and the steps being taken in this direction was also being exchanged during the presentation. They also have mentioned about the Bournemouth University study, which is looking at how a more flexible approach to copyright may help the technology, AI, education, and research. And they also cited the example of the countries, including Japan, South Korea, Canada, Israel, Singapore, and Sri Lanka. They also mentioned about the country Spain, wherein it is being obligatory on part of the institutions to make the works available online if they are being publicly funded. They also spoke about the research exemptions and the current European copyright framework and the issues associated with the cross-border research in the EU. And the session also ended with the question answers from the attendees, and it was indeed a session which was highly engaging in nature. I'm glad to brief you now about the session 3 of the second day of IFLA 2023, and the session was on the IFLA UNESCO Public Library Manifesto entitled "Let's Work Together on this Powerful Tool for Library Advocacy." I would like to mention this session was a highly engaging, enriching, and an inspiring session, as some of the best practices being followed in the public libraries for implementing the IFLA UNESCO Public Library Manifesto was highlighted during the session. The first presentation was by the speaker, Mrs. Esther Omela from Platio, Barcelona, also the recipient of an IFLA award for public libraries, wherein she spoke about the toolkit for the manifesto implementation. And it was very heartening to know that entire manifesto implementation, which has been carried out in their library, has been converted into various languages by UNESCO. They have been doing a tremendous work by offering the public library services to the various municipalities in the entire city of Barcelona, and as well as this entire template which has been developed by them has been of great use by the libraries in Spain. And seeing the efficacy of this the template, the manifesto implementation template, UNESCO has come forward in getting it translated into the various languages, and so that this becomes a model case for the various public libraries in the world, to adopt it. She highlighted also, saying that the 232 libraries and 12 mobile libraries are being networked by them. And she spoke at length about the various strategic planning which was being involved in making this entire toolkit available for the public libraries in Barcelona. Also, she spoke at length about the manifesto dissemination because that was one of the very crucial component, after developing the entire manifesto, in helping out the public libraries in getting it implemented at their respective public libraries, in order to ensure that the general public are getting benefited out of it. I would also like to mention that in this particular session, we also had the presentations, which were best practices being followed in the Latin America, and the entire focus of the session was on the IFLA UNESCO Public Library Manifesto. So we had also the cases apart from the Latin America, wherein the various networks being working there, including the Chilean Public Libraries National Network, the Colombian Public Libraries Network, were being highlighted, providing services to the rural community in the country and also to the differently abled population. The session also witnessed some presentations from Sao Paulo State Public Library Network, and the highlighting part of the session was that after the deliberations there were also the engaging discussions within the group of attendees, and wherein some of the discussions were all being centered around that whether the public libraries are using these manifestos in their respective regions of the world, and also to explain the various advocacy projects that have been implemented in the regions, and whether there are any needs for additional tools for the advocacy. This was indeed one of the most highly engaging session of the day 2 of IFLA 2023. I would just like to highlight also about one of the last sessions that I could manage to attend during the second day of IFLA 2023, which was on learning from pitfalls and embracing the promises of open educational resource collection development. which indeed is of great relevance to each one of us, the library and information science professionals, as we remain inclined for providing an access to open educational resources in our respective libraries and institutions. I would like to highlight that some of the best practices being followed in the libraries across at a global level were being highlighted. And just to name, we had the presentations here. The first presentation was by Tamara Painos from KIO in Germany, who spoke on enhancing the distributability of open textbooks, the European initiative of the LIBOR Education Resource Working Group. It was followed by a presentation on open educational resource for inclusivity, accessibility, and accessibility, the case of institutional repository from Colombia. And we had also a presentation by Weeks Joan from Library of Congress, who spoke on free or not free. That is a question. Discovery and the access is the answer, highlighting the various e-resources which are available as an open educational resources available from the Library of Congress. So this is to sum it up for the day 2 of IFLA 2023, and I look forward to coming back to you again tomorrow with the day 3 deliberations. Thank you very much, one and all. Thank you.